Shalom, giving all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rawchaa, Qadash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations as always to the elect. And I wanted to do this lesson, all right, before we go into some of the arguments that are being made about the beloved Apostle Paul, all right, who was ordained by Yahawashi, all right, to preach salvation among the Gentiles, whether the Israelites were scattered. I wanted to sort of give you an understanding through the Holy Spirit of his position. And, you know, as we hear these particular arguments being made by, you know, camps like the Sakari, you have to understand, all right, that these arguments were also being made in the scriptures against the Apostle Paul, all right, which is why, you know, there were a lot of back and forth, which will show you, because his position, all right, being sent to the Gentiles who were scattered among the heathen who were turning back to the Most High, all right, through the message preached through Yahawashi, all right, and Paul's ministry was a ministry of grace. So his position at times, as he's dealing with issues popping up among these churches, could seem to contradict, and ultimately we're going to deal with them. But we want to first tap into his perspective and why it would be this way, and show you that, you know, that which is then is now, the very same arguments that are being made against the Apostle Paul today, all right, were being made about him, all right, as we'll show you in the book of Acts. And this is why Peter had to write this. I know we keep bringing this scripture out, all right, but it speaks to the times that we're in, all right. And, you know, a statement that was made by the Sakari is that Paul's letters don't apply to, you know, the churches today, which is a damn lie, all right. When you read the book of Revelation, John the Revelator, you know, wrote those letters. Get that real quick. Let's get Revelation, the first chapter. All right, because we are an extension of these churches. All right, Revelation 1 and 4. John, to the 7 churches which are in Asia, grace unto you and peace from him which is, and which was, and which is to come, from the 7 spirits which are before his throne. Okay, so the 7 churches in Asia Minor, all right, Paul helped to establish some of those churches. As a matter of fact, when you go to the very next chapter, okay, there's a message that John writes to the church of Ephesus, all right, which is Paul, all right, wrote letters to Ephesus. He sent Timothy to be head over the church of Ephesus for some years to establish and help that church with some of the things that they were going through. So when you deal with, you know, the writings of the Apostle Paul, all right, all of these writings apply to us today. Okay, and we apply them, all right, as the scriptures say, through thy precepts I get understanding. Through the precepts, we go to the precepts to help us with some of the very same issues that we're going to be faced with here in Babylon the Great, as we are in a spiritual Greco-Roman Empire. And when you deal with who was ruling at the time that, you know, these churches were being established, all right, we're going to, you know, encounter some of the very same, you know, challenges in our church or churches, all right, that, you know, were coming about, all right, at the time you read the Romans, you know, Corinthians, Ephesians, you know, Philemon, all right, and so forth. You know, these letters, all right, the book of Timothy, all right, you know, to any head of a church, all right, you should read that, and it's going to offer you guidance that you can use to apply to your walk. All right, now everything may not apply to you and your particular church, all right, but we use those letters as guides, all right, to help us, all right, to establish churches as we are an extension of these 7 churches that were established in Asia Minor that these letters went to. And the Apostle Paul had his hand, all right, in traveling, all right, and helping to establish and keep up these very churches, all right, which as we read in the book of Acts, the 1st chapter, these churches would eventually extend to the uttermost part of the earth. You see, and that's over here in Babylon the Great, all right, where the apostles and prophets will be raised up as well as scattered throughout the 4 corners of the earth. You have what? Churches, which are an extension, all right, of the churches of Yahawashi that were established, which the Apostle Paul had his part, all right, in going and preaching among the Gentiles, all right. And his standpoint, as you read his letters, all right, dealt more with grace, the ministry of grace, all right. When you type in grace in the scriptures, all right, as we'll just get this in the book of John real quick. We always get this, but you'll see the word grace, all right, is used more in Paul's writings than any other part of the book. Why is that? All right, because he was set, all right, to go and preach grace among the Gentiles. And what is grace for us Israelites? All right, we know that John the Baptist, all right, his name means what? Yawachanan or Yachanan, all right, the Most High has graced, all right, which grace is ultimately a period that we have, all right, to walk by faith, all right, where ultimately we're not held to the stringent technicalities of the first covenant, all right, to be entered into the second covenant, all right. But this was never, all right, a gospel for us to do what the hell we wanted to do, all right, and live like wild beasts. But we're going to go into some of the arguments that these individuals make so that we can just bring understanding and show you that there's nothing new under the sun. These same arguments were being made against the Apostle Paul, all right, as you go to, Acts 21 and 28, all right. This is what the Jews said of Paul. Men of Israel, help us. This is the man who preaches against our people everywhere and tells everybody to disobey the laws of the Jews, or the Jewish laws. He speaks against the temple, and he defiles this holy place by bringing in Gentiles, all right, which the Gentiles were looked down upon. They were called uncircumcision. These were Israelites, again, who were scattered among these regions, all right, who were turning back to the Most High, which is your story, okay, which was Abraham's story, as he was born uncircumcised. He belonged to a family line of the Israelites. Before they were Israelites, they were called the sons of God. He belonged to that family line, all right? And ultimately, his father, Terah, was an idol worshiper, okay? Abram was uncircumcised, okay? And pretty much the Lord gave him grace. He found favor and opened his eyes to his true heritage, all right, and this is how the promise was given unto us, all right, which gives us access back, all right, to the garden eastward in Eden, all right. Yahawashi's blood solidifies it, okay. But there was a promise made to the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, all right, that they would eventually have rights back to that land, all right. But the way we would get back to that land, all right, would be through grace and faith, where we would apply belief. You see, and that promise was given before that first covenant we break was given. And a lot of people like to make, the promise and predicate it upon, the first covenant standard. And this was the same argument that was being made against the Apostle Paul as he was sent to preach the ministry of grace. Okay, so his standpoint at times would seem to differ from those of the circumcision, which, as we'll show you, Paul was raised, all right, as a circumcised Jew. See? But the Lord used him for a very, very important purpose, to go and preach his name among the Gentiles. Now, when you type in grace in the scriptures, let's get John 1 and 17. For the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Yahawashi. And when John the Baptist, all right, who was a descendant of Aaron, all right, through Abijah, all right, because they had certain records back then, a lot of the Jews, all right, which, of course, Jew is short for Judah, or, all right, it could be short for the three tribes, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, all right, who the Lord used to keep a remnant, all right, to stick to the traditions through all of the turmoil and hell we went through, all right, from the Babylonian to the Persians and the Medes Empire to the Greek Empire where they sacked the temple, all right, all the way up to the Roman Empire, which is where Yahawashi was born. He was born at the time that the Romans were ruling, you see. And by that time, many Israelites had fell away from the customs of their fathers and became complete heathen, you see. So it's very important to understand Paul's stance. Again, the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Yahawashi. And a grace period is what was needed, all right, for the Gentiles to be brought back into the fold, all right, and be justified by faith rather than being justified by the perfection of that and the technicalities of that first covenant, which we'll tap into that. But as you see, this term grace constantly comes up, all right, and you'll see, all right, it continues to come up, all right. Romans 1:7, to all that be in Rome, beloved of God, as Israelites were scattered in Rome, called to be saints, grace to you and peace from our God. Romans 3:24, being freely justified by his grace through the redemption that is in Yahawashi. So the talking point of grace for someone who has a mindset, you know, rooted in, you know, the law, the Torah, the temple. All right. Which, again, those were beautiful things. The temple was a beautiful thing. All right. But as the book of Hebrews lets you know, it's just a fashion of something greater to come. All right. It's a fashion of something that already existed in the heavens. All right, which it all points to Yahawashi. That's why he said one greater than the temple is here, and the Jews got mad. You see, the law itself, all right, the 613, you know, commandments, you know, the first covenant, all right, what did that lead to for us as Israelites? That led to our death, all right, because there was no way we could keep that covenant, which was the need for a grace period and the promise of a second covenant, all right, predicated upon better promises. Okay, so each and every one of us Israelites who are here in this fold right now, who have woke up in these latter days, you were called into this thing by grace. And we've never taught you that you don't have to keep the laws. That's never been the standpoint of Great Millstone, all right? But as this ministry was given unto us, it was given unto us by grace, and this is what we are pushing, you see, and there's a balance. And often that balance can, you know, was used against Paul to make him to seem as though he was speaking against Moses, speaking against the law. And this is the same argument being used by the Sakari. And we're going to tap into their arguments. All right. The Spirit's on me to do it. And Lord willing, you all are edified. But I wanted to do this lesson first so that you can understand his standpoint. Okay. Let's see if we can get a few more. Let's see. Romans 5:20. Moreover, the law entered that offense might abound. All right, because we broke that first covenant. All right, and offense abounded. All right, and then the curses. You see, but where sin abounded, grace did much more abound. All right, this is why we cry for the mercies of David. Again, you have a lot of individuals who, when they read the law, all right, they believe that, you know, this is something that they could, fulfill here in Babylon the Great. All right, again, we keep some laws, all right, but ultimately, you know, when you read the law, all right, it's supposed to make you feel crushed. It's supposed to make you thankful for the sacrifice of Yahawashi. It's supposed to make you lean on Yahawashi even more. All right, seeing as though you can't meet that measure. It should make you feel filthy. See? And the Lord giving us that grace period, all right, to where we're not held to the strict, stringent technicalities of what was required under that law, which under that first covenant, righteousness was based upon perfection in the law. That's what made you right with the Most High. But under this grace period, it is faith. All right. It is faith that makes you right with the Most High. All right. And that's why this ministry is tied to the faith of Abraham. Okay. Who was uncircumcised. All right. As we were uncircumcised in spirit, even if you had a physical circumcised penis, spiritually, all right, there were things that needed to be cut off. You see, and the Lord had mercy on us, man. Okay, because again, I always say, imagine if you didn't have a grace period, all right, and it was just strictly the first covenant, all right, that you being right with the Most High was set on. None of us would get back. Okay, and Paul broke these things down in his letters, all right, which it was challenging to those who were Jews. Even those who were Jews who were believers sometimes had problems with the Apostle Paul's stance. Okay? So Romans 6:15, what then? Shall we sin because we are not under the law? All right? But under grace, God forbid. And you see us constantly teaching our people the laws. Every Passover, what do you see us doing? And we do those things through faith, rehearsing the righteous acts. Okay, we keep the holy days. We you know, those things are tied to the law. All right, we don't eat unclean food. Although we know in this society, everything's unclean. Everything's offered to idols, which we're going to deal with that as well. All right, even so, Romans 11:15, at this present time, there is a remnant according to the election of grace. See? And if by grace, then it is no more of works. All right. And you have these individuals pushing this notion that they can be saved by their own righteousness, what they do. All right. And there's not too much mention, all right, of Yahawashi's importance in sacrifice. All right. They even boast of the Levitical priesthood being established in the kingdom, which shows you they have missed the mark. All right, there's a veil over their mind, as the scriptures say in the book of Corinthians. When Moses is read, they're reading it, not understanding how it all pointed to Yahawashi. You see, otherwise grace is no more grace, but if it be of works, then it is no more of grace. Otherwise work is no more work. And this was the argument. You know, this is why he constantly had to go through these things, because, you know, his ministry of grace, and as you see, grace is mentioned by the Apostle Paul so many times. All right. Galatians 2:21. I do not frustrate the grace of the Most High, for if righteousness come by the law, then Hamashiach is dead in vain. All right. So Apostle Paul's ministry, all right, of grace to the scattered Israelites. As a matter of fact, let's get Galatians, the first chapter, real quick. All right. And if you all think it's okay for an individual to mock Paul, but then use Paul to get money, all right, you know, use Paul to cut women when it's, beneficial to them, use his writings, but overall push the notion that he doesn't have authority, then okay, you know, then go ahead and follow that. All right. But real quick, let me see what I'm looking for here. Okay. Let's see here. Galatians 1:1. Paul, an apostle, not of men, neither by man, but by Yahawashi, who said he was a chosen vessel, all right, and God the Father who raised Yahawashi from the dead, unto all the brethren which are with me, unto the churches of Galatia, grace and peace be unto you from God the Father and from our Lord Yahawashi HaMashiach. All right. And he's speaking to Israelites who gave himself for our sins, because it was Israelites who had broke that covenant. And as a result of that covenant, what happened? All right. They were scattered. OK. And the Apostle Paul, as he says, he's Paul of Tarshish. Let's get that real quick. Acts 21:39. But Paul said, I am a man which is a Jew of Tarshish. All right. Which is in, I believe, southwestern Asia, Turkey. OK. a city in Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city, and I beseech thee, suffer me to speak unto the people. So Paul was a Jew raised in Tarshish, which is a result of a scattering. You see? As a matter of fact, let's see if we can pull up the map. All right. And this is, you know, these different regions. All right. You had particular Jews who stuck to the traditions, but you had a lot who fell away. Okay. So you can see, you know, let's see here. Tarshish is right there. All right. And if you had a bigger map, all right, you go further down south. All right. And Israel is below Syria. All right. The land of Israel as you keep going down south. So this was a scattering. All right. These Israelites were scattered. As you see, you know, Bithynia, Galatia, Cappadocia. All right. Remember, it was told to the Israelites they would be scattered. Okay. Among the heathen. Leviticus 26:33, and I will scatter you among the heathen. All right. And I will draw a sword after you. All right. Among the heathen is a big time biblical narrative. Deuteronomy 4:27. The Lord shall scatter you among the nations. Few of you shall be left among the heathen. All right. And as you keep reading, you know, this is a common theme. All right. Thou hast Psalms 44:11. Thou hast given us like sheep appointed for meat. Thou hast scattered us among the heathen. Among the heathen. And see, what was going to happen is that among the heathen, all right, there would be Israelites that would say among the heathen, Yahawah reigneth. See? Psalms 106:35, but were mingled among the heathen and learned their works. All right. Psalms 106:47, save us, O Yahawah, gather us from among the heathen. All right. And it's all over the Bible, among the heathen. All right. And the promise is that the Lord is going to, all right, Ezekiel 36:24, will take you from among the heathen and gather you out of all countries and bring you into your own land. Okay. And that's what's happening here. So among the heathen, all right, is a big time standpoint. All right. Now, Paul being from Tarshish, all right, which, again, this is a result of a scattering. All right. What happened is the Lord, among these nations that we were scattered here, he left particular Jews, all right, of the circumcision to stick to the traditions. And we know this particular region here, Tarshish, was conquered, all right, by Antiochus, all right, of the Greek Empire. And this is why Paul spoke Greek, okay? Not that he was around when Antiochus conquered it, all right, but among this nation, all right, people spoke Greek. This is 2 Maccabees, the 4th chapter, and the 30th verse. While those things were in doing, they of Tarshish and Malos made insurrection, because they were given unto the king's concubine called Antiochus. So Antiochus, all right, gave these particular regions to one of his concubines, all right, and the Jews that were there, you know, were pissed off, or the people that were there were pissed off. But if you go into it, all right, Tarshish is one of the areas conquered by Antiochus during the reign of the Greeks. Okay, so there was a heavy portion of Jews scattered here that spoke Greek. Now, a lot of them fell away, all right, but many of them didn't, all right, and in the scriptures they're called the Grecians, all right. These were Jews who stuck to their traditions, but they knew how to speak Greek, all right. So Paul was one of those. As a matter of fact, let's type in Grecian, all right. Let's see if we can look it up here. Acts 6:1. In those days, when the number of disciples was multiplied, there arose murmurings of the Grecians among the Hebrews, because their widows were neglected. Okay, so, you know, to speak Greek as well, like when you spoke Greek, a lot of Jews looked down on you. All right. I mean, and these were, the Grecians were Jews who stuck to the traditions, who spoke Greek, right? So imagine those who spoke Greek who fell away from the traditions. How were they looked down on? Okay. The word Grecians, Hellenistes, all right. One who imitates the manner and customs of worship of the Greeks. All right, which you do have the Hellenized Jews who fell away to the customs of the Greeks. All right, but ultimately in the New Testament, Jews, all right, which the Jews are the ones who stuck to the traditions, those of the circumcision, born in foreign lands speaking Greek. See, born in foreign lands speaking Greek. All right, and Paul's one of those. You see, so the Lord, all right, although before Paul woke up to the truth, he was persecuting the Jews, all right, but the Lord blinded him and knocked him off of his horse, which was spiritual. He blinded him, all right, so that he may see. Okay, so and Paul breaks down his whole walk, as you read Acts, 20 through the end of the chapter. You can read that, as we'll go into some of it. To show you. So the Lord used him because there were many Israelites scattered in these regions who spoke Greek. Okay. So the Lord would use Paul as a vessel, as we read here. Let's get Galatians 1:16. I start at 15. But when it pleased the Most High, who separated me from my mother's womb and called me by his grace, to reveal his son in me, that I might preach him among the heathen. See, immediately I conferred not with flesh and blood. All right. Among the heathen, to preach him among the heathen, because many Israelites were scattered among the heathen, among the Gentiles. Okay. So again, Paul's position in ministry of grace, a lot of times, all right, it frustrated many of those who were raised as Jews, because his position, all right, and his talking points had to come from a position of grace at times. Every situation that you're faced with in your captivity, you're not going to be able to apply the law. You're going to have to apply, all right, walking in the spirit, which is ultimately what we're coming back into. All right. Like at the time of Adam, we didn't have a law book. It was just something we did. All right. And here we are. All right. Getting back into that mindset to where we just walk in the spirit. We don't need to see something physically. OK, to know to be obedient. It's just a way. OK. This is the book of 2 Peter 3:16. OK. As also, I'll start at 15. And account that the long suffering of our Lord is salvation, even as our beloved brother Paul also, according to the wisdom given unto him, have written unto you. And also all his epistles, not some of them, right? Speaking in them of these things, in which are some things hard to be understood. See? Which they that are unlearned and unstable rest, as they do also the other scriptures, to their own destruction. And we're witnessing this happen with the Sicarii. Not only Paul's writings are being challenged, but Mark, Luke, all right, the book of Hebrews. And when you go into their real, problem with the book of Hebrews, is that it lets you know that the Levitical priesthood was just a sign of something that was used to bring us to a better way, and that the priesthood of Melchizedek is what we'll be under in the kingdom of heaven. All right. And they get mad at that. All right. But they that are unstable, let's look at this word unstable. And we're seeing the unstable mindset of many Israelites in these latter days.
Strong's G 793, astelectos. Astelectos.
Unstable. Okay. Let's see what this says here. So they're not constant. They're not firm. Their mind is not set fast. Okay, and they're wrestling with these particular scriptures. All right, and the thing is, what's happening with the Sakari is that they've went amongst these particular debating groups. They've went amongst these particular Israelites, and they've these not Israelite, well, people who call themselves Israelites, but they may believe in all kind of other philosophies. They went amongst the Kemetic community, and they started debating with some of these Edomites and this, and as they've come across particular information, all right, in their mind, the apostles never taught us this. You see? And they look at it as, because they never heard it. The apostles don't know this. So they try to use it as a means to one up. All right. And what has happened is that they have lost the faith. Okay. They could actually be great teachers if they just stuck to the simplicity of Yahawashi. All right. But all men have their story. All right. And all of that tough talk. All right. Leave it at the door, man. You're not going to hit nobody. Or calling brothers pussy and this and that, hey, bro, at the end of the day, we're going to keep it about the scriptures, man. But truly, your ego is hurt. And you look bad. This is why you have to do like the as we're going to show you the Jews did against Paul. They try to get the crowd to turn against you. All right, by bringing up things that have nothing to do with the argument and making it to seem as though you hate the Levitical priesthood, you hate the temple, throwing out these accusations to make people listen and say, oh, my God. And some will fall for it, and we're not mad. OK, you're wrestling with the scriptures. You're unstable. OK, streblo, to twist, to turn away, to torture. All right, metaphorically, to pervert. All right, of one who wrests or tortures language in a false sense, man. And that's what y'all are doing with the scriptures. All right, using them for your own benefit, even going into the law and try to twist it to make it seem like we're blatantly telling Israel to break the law. And we'll deal with those things. All right, but again, we wanted to do this lesson to give you the standpoint, because you have to understand that all of these Israelites were scattered. Right, in these particular regions, all right, the Lord's, as the disciples started to preach, a lot of these Israelites from among the heathen started to turn to the Most High. OK, so the talking point couldn't be as though he was speaking to one of the Jews. As a matter of fact, what's that scripture? I became a Jew. Okay, because these guys act like they were raised in the customs. You an Israelite in America that need mercy just like me. All right, and walking around with your fringes on don't make you all right the keeper of the law. You have to actually do the things that are associated with wisdom, because many people with fringes do the damnedest things in Israel. You got people with fringes saying we don't know the name of the Lord, but they have a name in Hebrew. People with fringes promoting the jab. People with fringes with bottle girls at their Passovers dancing, and people with fringes auctioning off men and women for marriage at Passovers. All right, people with fringes talking about the miracles don't exist. So clearly the fringes ain't the answer. It's about your mindset towards what we've been presented with in these latter days. It's about being a Jew inwardly. All right? Which you Christians who try to take Paul's writings to make them mean all other nations as well, you're wrong. But we're dealing with, all right, those of the flock, the Israelites. 1 Corinthians 9:20. Unto the Jews I became a Jew, that I might gain the Jews. Unto them that are under the law, as under the law, that I might gain them that are under the law. All right. You had particular Jews, even that believed in Yahawashi, that are very strict about laws, traditions. And this caused, friction between them and Paul at times. It caused friction in the book of Acts, the 15th chapter, to where they had to have a council. OK. And to them that are without the law, as without the law. being not without law to God, but under the law of Hamashiach, which is grace, that I might gain them that are without the law. Okay, this is speaking of those who are being brought in by grace. All right, because remember, the Jews remain faithful. All right, you have to know the history. After Solomon's kingdom was rent, all right, we turned into northern and southern kingdom. Okay, remember, the northern kingdom eventually went into the Assyrian Empire. Okay, it was the southern kingdom, which is Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, all right, who went into the Babylonian captivity. Okay, and then they went into the the Medes, the Persians, all right, where they rebuilt the temple, the Persians and the Medes. Then they went into the Greek captivity, which is where you get the Maccabees. But many of the Jews, became uncircumcised. They fell away, right? And then you get the Roman Empire, is where you had the remnant of the Jews who stuck to the traditions, all right, were face to face with Yahawashi. Some of them followed him, many of them didn't. All right, this is Hosea 11 and 12. Ephraim, the northern kingdom, compasseth me about with lies, and the house of Israel with deceit. But Judah yet ruleth with the Most High, and is faithful with the saints. Even when you look at the kings of Judah, all right, about close to 7 of them did good. All right, whereas when you go to the northern kingdom, none of those did good. Jehu did okay. All right, but it was Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, or the kingdom of Judah, all right, who primarily stuck to the traditions, leading all the way up to the Roman Empire, where you had our people scattered among these various different regions, you see. And as these churches started to get established, all right, because when Yahawashi first came on the scene, all right, the tents of Judah had to be raised up first. He first went and picked from among the Jews, his followers, Peter, James, John, Andrew. All right. When Yahawashi saw Andrew, he said, behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom is no guile. These were all Jews. All right. John the Baptist, though he wasn't one of the 12, he was a Jew. He was born a Jew. He was of the tribe of Levi, but guess what? He was circumcised the 8th day. His family were in the temple. These were Israelites of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi who stuck to the traditions, man. You see, but eventually the word of Yahawashi would start to be spread among these regions. And you also had Jews here who stuck to the traditions. And as these churches were being raised up, all right, they gave these churches hell. All right, now real quick, let's get the book of Galatians, okay, the 2nd chapter. And I'll just get to the point. Galatians 2 and 6, Galatians 2 and 5. But contrariwise, when they saw that the gospel of the uncircumcision was committed unto me. All right, what is uncircumcision? All right, not being raised in the laws. Let's get Romans 2 and 25. All right, for circumcision verily profited if thou keep the law. All right, but if thou be a breaker of the law, thy circumcision is made uncircumcision. And when you get Maccabees, all right, what happened? All right, we always go to this, but it's good to continue shoving it in your face, in the spirit. Pause. It's good to continue, you know, putting this out to the forefront that many of the Jews, okay, joined themselves to the heathen at the time of the Greek captivity, which was before the Roman captivity. Okay, so they did the ordinance of the heathen. Okay, in verse 15, and made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the heathen. All right, by following, all right, the religions of the heathen. All right, so they went into that Greco-Roman lifestyle and just completely fell off, but there were always a remnant, all right, in this story, the Maccabean Empire, headed by Mattathias. He had a son named Judas and other sons, and they stuck to the traditions, and other joined themselves to them. You see? So as, Yahawashi came on the scene, again, he gathered from amongst the circumcision, but eventually, all right, the word would be spread to the uncircumcision, all right, and it was Paul, all right, who was sent as the head of that mission, all right, Barnabas as well with him and others. So Romans 2:25, for circumcision verily profited if thou keep the law, but if thou be a breaker of the law, thy circumcision is made uncircumcision. Galatians 2:7, but contrariwise, when they saw that the gospel of the uncircumcision was committed unto me, as the gospel of the circumcision was unto Peter. All right, the ministry of grace was, all right, to be spread amongst the circumcision, all right, and the uncircumcision. It was just that Paul was sent to the uncircumcision. All right, and when you look up this word uncircumcision, yeah, they weren't physically circumcising themselves, but, all right, their minds, their spirits, all right, as it talks about the uncircumcised heart, all right, is the bigger issue, all right, the word.
Strong's G203, akrabustia. Akrabustia.
Okay, of course, having the foreskin uncircumcised, but more importantly, their minds, their heart, as they say, a Gentile. Okay, a condition in which the corrupt desires rooted in the flesh were not yet extinct. Okay, so they were, still tied to the idols. Okay, they were still, tied to the wicked ways of the captivity. They fell away from the righteous way. All right, their fathers and mothers taught them these things, just like us. Okay. So the gospel of the uncircumcision was committed unto Paul. You see, for he that wrought effectually in Peter to the apostleship of the circumcision. That's why Peter and the rest of the 12, they pretty much remained in Jerusalem. The same was mighty in me towards the Gentiles. The Gentiles are the uncircumcised. And we did a video going into this term Gentile as it's been presented to just mean non-Jew or non-Israelite. No, that's not true. Ethnos, all right, is the word. And we always go into it. If you need that video, ask on the comment board or just look at the older videos and you'll see it eventually. And when James and Cephas, who's Peter, and John, who seemed to be pillars, all right, perceived that the grace was given unto me, they gave me and Barnabas the right hands of fellowship, that we should go to the heathen and they to the circumcision. All right. And it's all about those who are scattered among the heathen. Okay. Scattered among the heathen. Paul was doing what? All right. Revealing his son. All right. In Yahawashi among the heathen, man. There's various scriptures. All right. That go into this. Okay. Let's see if we can get a few. Ephesians 3:8, unto me, who am less than least of all the saints, is this grace given, that I should preach among the Gentiles the unsearchable riches of Yahawashi. Okay, so it's all about the among the Gentiles. Okay, and you had many Jews that had a problem with that. Many of those who were raised in the customs had a problem with that. Okay, now, again, these are the regions, all right, where the provinces where the churches were primarily established after they left from Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and so forth. Eventually, churches were established here. All right, and as you see, Galatia, Cappadocia, Ephesus, all right, Bithynia, all right. Let's get 1 Peter, all right, the first chapter. Okay, he even wrote a letter to these churches. Okay, Peter, the head of the circumcision, is writing to the elect scattered. All right. 1 Peter 1:1. Peter, an apostle of Yahawashi, to the strangers scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. All right. Scattered. Let's look up this word scattered. Diaspora. All right. See? Diaspora or diaspora. All right. A scattered dispersion of Israelites dispersed among foreign nations, of the followers of Yahawashi scattered abroad among the Gentiles. That's it. Point blank period, man. Elect according to the foreknowledge of the Most High, okay, the Father, through sanctification of the Spirit unto obedience and sprinkling of the blood of Yahawashi, grace unto you and peace be multiplied. Grace unto you. Okay, so as these churches were being established, okay, many of the Jews, or those of the circumcision, all right, they were catching feelings. They were pissed off at Paul's office. You see, they had a problem with it. And there were even times where believers on Yahawashi who were of the circumcision raised as Jews, all right, had problems, all right, or issues with some of Paul's sayings. That's why Peter made it a point to warn them, or warn even us in this time, that look, Paul's writings, a lot of people are going to stumble over them. He was given a heavy portion. Okay. Let's get Romans, all right, 1:13. This is Paul speaking. All right. For I speak to you Gentiles, inasmuch as I am the apostle to the Gentiles, I magnify mine office. That was his office. You see, and as he's breaking down in this chapter, you know, many of the Jews rejected. Okay, I mean, there's so many instances. All right, we can go to Acts, the 13th chapter. Okay, where the Jews saw many of the Israelite foreigners coming in, and you know, they got pissed. They kicked, you know, they ran Paul and them out of the city. You see? Because many, you know, the Gentiles were believing on the word through faith. All right. But the Jews who were at one point face to face with Yahawashi, they would still rejecting the message. Okay. Romans 11:11. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? God forbid, but rather through their fall, salvation is coming to the Gentiles to provoke them to jealousy. All right. We have many accounts of the Jews, all right, becoming jealous. All right. They were hurt. All right. They were mad, man. See if we can find a few here. There's one in Acts 17. Let's see if we can find it. Let's see here. And when you look this up real quick, when you just type in Jews, all right, it was many times where you see the Jews, right, Acts 13:45, but the Jews saw the multitudes and they were filled with envy. All right, the Jews stirred up the devout and honorable women and men, all right, and persecuted Paul and Barnabas. So you see these same arguments today. Okay? But again, some believed that were of the circumcision, some didn't. Okay? Acts 14:2. But the unbelieving Jews stirred up the Gentiles and made their minds evil affected against the brethren. They were going crazy. They were tripping. Okay? Acts 14:19. And there came certain Jews from Antioch and Iconium who persuaded the people, having stoned Paul, drew him out the city, supposing he had been dead. So they were going in, man. Acts 17:5. But the Jews which believed not, moved with envy, all right, took unto them certain lewd fellows of the baser sort, and gathered a company, and set all the city in an uproar, all right, assaulted the house of Jason, and sought to bring them out to the people. So this was a hardcore contention. Okay? This is why John the Revelator wrote that in Revelation the third chapter, or the second chapter and the third chapter, about those who say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. See, it was those guys. Now we apply it to those who are in the Holy Land, talking about they're the Jews, but really that was these niggas who were giving the church hell. All right, which over time, some of them repented and became followers of Yahawashi. All right, but ultimately you continuously see that it was the Jews, all right, of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, who were raised in the customs that had aught, all right, with the churches of Yahawashi being established, all right, and as they were being spread about through Paul, Barnabas, and you know, to teach among these regions, the Jews that were there were pissed off, okay, the ones who didn't follow Yahawashi, and the Sakari were a part of that. Give me 1 second here. They were a part of that. When you go to the Zealots, real quick, the Zealots, all right, as you read here, you see this group here today calling themselves the Sakari, right? Now, the Sakari were Zealots. They were not followers of Yahawashi. Okay, the Zealots were a group of Jews who began to emerge as a religious political movement beginning in the 1st century CE. They strongly opposed Roman rule and turned on everyone, including other Jews who cooperated with Rome. Okay, a subgroup of them were known as the Sakari, frequently attacked Romans and those considered to work for them. Now, when did Yahawashi ever say to do this? So the whole foundation of this movement is not with Yahawashi's movement. This is why I constantly say the Sakari were not followers of Yahawashi. But as you see them in their lot, you see the mindset that they have towards the ministry of grace. All right. The term zealot is from the Hebrew. All right. Kanai, those who are zealous on behalf of God. And you don't have to be, all right, wicked to be a zealot. All right. You can have a strong zeal in righteousness. All right. But their zeal led them to try to overthrow the Roman Empire, which was not prophecy. All right. We had to go through that Roman captivity. The Greek term was zelotes, all right, emulator, admirer, follower. In a modern day, zeal is applied to a person who's sometimes considered a fanatic or radical. All right. And the word radical just means going back to the roots. The Maccabean revolt by the Jews, all right, in the book of Maccabees, in 167 BCE, drove out the Greek occupiers and established an independent kingdom of Israel. The Hasmonean family who led the revolt, all right, which they started to sell out, okay, which it goes back to Judah Maccabees and his father, you know, Mattathias, all right, but that's the history. You have to read 1st and 2nd Maccabees. The Hasmonean family who led the revolt combined the office of the kings that of the high priest at the temple in Jerusalem. All right. And you see a lot of these videos going back and forth over, will there be a third temple in the kingdom, the temple this, the temple that? These are the same arguments that were going on back then. When you read one of the reasons, one of the chief priests in them had a problem with Yahawashi is he was like, you say you're going to destroy the temple. You see, so again, when you see these back and forths, you have to understand that this is your chance to see the church of Yahawashi go against, all right, the detractors, man. It's nothing new. Not everyone was happy with the Hasmonean rule. The kings of Israel were to be from David's tribe of Judah, while the high priest had to descend from Zadok, all right, who was the high priest at the time of Solomon, but the Hasmoneans could claim neither line. This is when various groups of Jews formed sects or camps within the religious body, all agreed on the basics of the law of Moses and the books of the prophets, all right, which is, this is basically what Sakari, Alazar, and Hakka, this is basically what their, you know, stance is, okay? And when you listen to them, you know, basically they're those men coming back. Okay, the dominating difference was the ability to live in this now cosmopolitan Greek culture and yet retain the identity markers and traditions of the Jews. One of the such groups was the Zealots, the Sicarii. All right, which when you the Sicarii were just one sect of the Zealots, but when you go to that word Sicarios or Sicarii, all right, they were assassins, one who carries a dagger or short sword under his clothing that he may kill secretly and treacherously anyone he wishes to. A cutthroat. So this is what they named their organization after. This is what their foundation is. It's not Yahawah Bahashim Yahawashi. Okay, yeah, they believe in Yahawah. They understood that Yahawashi walked, but really they weren't down with it. And you could read more about that, but as you read these arguments and back and forth the Jews were having with the churches of Yahawashi, all right, the Jews that didn't believe, okay, you see now why these individuals are so pissed off, because Paul's office, all right, as ultimately we're reading here, his office was to be an apostle to the Gentiles, the Israelite foreigners, who were looked at by the Jews as sellouts, as a no people, as they turned their back on the nation. Okay? Let's see here. I'm going to jump to a point here. This is Romans 11:17. And if some of the branches were broken off, and thou being a wild olive tree were grafted in among them. Now, what is the wild olive tree? All right, you have the natural branches, and then you have the wild olive tree. Okay, the wild olive tree, as you can see here, it's the Gentiles, the Israelite foreigners.
Strong's G65, Agrielias. Agrielias.
Okay, belonging to a olister or a wild olive tree, and a lot of people try to say this is the heathen, but it's still an olive. Okay. All right. Wild. Okay. Growing in the field woods. Savage. Uncultivated. See? Uncultivated. Okay. Meaning they were not cultivated in the traditions of your everyday Jew. They were raised as heathen, unreclaimed, wild, savage, boorish, rude. All right, and this is how we were raised here in Babylon the Great. Okay, we were raised as uncultivated. Let's look at the word uncultivated. Okay, we were uncultivated. Okay, the Jews were cultivated, natural branches. So Paul's office was to graft so that the tree may live, graft in those wild, all right, branches that weren't cultivated in the customs of the Jews. And a lot of people had a problem with that. All right. Highly uneducated or socially adept. Okay. Uncultivated. Point blank period, man. All right. Highly uneducated. So this is how the Gentiles were looked at. Okay. But they were grafted in, which when you go into the science of grafting, you can't take a plum tree and graft it onto an orange tree. No, this is speaking of an olive tree. And the nation of Israel is known as an olive tree in the scriptures. Okay? As a matter of fact, it's a few precepts, but I'll get a few notable ones. All right? Isaiah 17:6, yet gleaning grapes shall be left in it as the shaking of an olive tree, 2 or 3 berries in the top of the uttermost bough, 4 or 5, all right, utmost fruitful branches thereof, said the Lord God of Israel, the remnant. Okay. Jeremiah 11:6, the Lord called thy name a green olive tree, fair and of goodly fruit. With the noise of a great tumult, he hath kindled fire upon it, and the branches are broken. We got judged. All right. And then here at the time Yahawashi came on the scene, many of the Jews, the natural branches, were broken off because of unbelief. Hosea 4:14-6, his branches shall spread. Speaking of Israel, his beauty shall be as an olive tree. So the olive tree is speaking of Israel, man. Okay. speaking of Israel. We can get to different examples, but this is speaking of Israel. So the wild olive tree, all right, were grafted in among, okay, the believing Jews, all right, and with them partakers of the root and fatness of the olive tree, all right. Boast not against the branches, but if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root thee. Okay, you can't boast because you've been brought back into the fold and they don't believe. All right, you just need to be accepting and happy you were brought back in through faith. Thou will say then, the branches were broken off that I may be grafted in. Well, I say, because of unbelief they were broken off, and thou standest by faith. Be not high-minded, but fear. See, thou standest by faith. They were broken off because they don't believe, which gave the Gentiles, all right, because, again, the tents of Judah had to be raised up first. All right, but here's the point. For if God spared not the natural branches, take heed lest he spare not thee. And who are the natural branches? The cultivated Jews, okay? The natural branches, all right? Phusis, the nature of things, laws, order of nature, opposed to what is monstrous, the Gentiles, abnormal and perverse, the Gentiles, okay? As opposed to what has been produced by the art of man, natural branches, birth, physical origin, okay? And the Jews were born as Jews, okay? They were born, all right, naturally, all right, into their customs, okay? Point blank period. As a matter of fact, when you look up this term Jews, see if we can find it here. Acts 23 and 27, and we're just touching the tip of the iceberg. There's so much we can go into, but I'm just giving you a quick understanding of why you see these back and forths, because that which is then is now. The word Jews, all right, or Yahawah, Yodas, all right, YAHAWADAH in the Hebrew, Jewish belonging to the Jewish nation, Jewish as respects to birth, origin, or religion. Remember, in the book of Maccabees, all right, they didn't fall away from their father's religion. Okay? Verse 19 in 1 Maccabees 2, then Mattathias, the father of Judas Maccabees, answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him and fall away every one from the religion of their fathers and give consent to his commandments, yet I and my sons and my brethren will walk in the covenant of our fathers. God forbid that we should forsake, all right, the law and the ordinances. So this mindset of us keeping the, the commandments had, continued on down the lineages. And many of these Jews, when they saw, Yahawashi, his position, and then, the disciples and Paul, be raised up preaching, to the Gentiles. Okay. Many of them opposed it, man. See, the natural branches were what? Broken off of the tree. Okay. And when you read this whole chapter, all Israel is eventually going to be saved. Okay, but it's the Gentiles who would be added into the fold, grafted in. All right, the wild olive tree would be grafted into the natural cultivated olive tree, and they would all live together. Okay, that the tree may live. You see? So as, Paul was establishing these churches, all right, as he's letting you know, he received this revelation of Yahawashi as he would be writing these letters and, taking the position he took. Many of the Jews, they were like, hell nah, man. Okay. They were like, hell nah, man. Acts 21 and 27, 7 days were almost ended when some Jews of the province of Asia saw Paul in the temple and roused up a mob against him. They grabbed him, yelling, "Men of Israel, help us. This is the man who preaches against our people everywhere and tells everybody to disobey the Jewish laws. He speaks also against the temple. He even devours the holy place, bringing in Gentiles." This is Sakari's stance. This is Alazar. When you hear him, All right, well, in the elder brother, Micah Allah hit me to this. When you listen to Al-Azhar, he's always trying to amp up the crowd against us. Right? He's always like, y'all see this? Y'all hear this? We ain't got to wear the fringes, man. They're going to go kill you. Man, the Lord going to kill you. This is those guys again. They're back. You see, they're saying that Paul is speaking against the laws. Okay, saying that's what they're saying. We're saying. All because we're saying that you ain't got to wear your fringes everywhere. It may not be beneficial to you. All because we're talking about the eating of meat, not partaking of the rituals with the whole idol thing. All right, which again, you better not eat halal meat. All right, but we're going to get into that next. But I just wanted to kind of bring this out so you could see Paul's position. Well, it was, the way he had to speak to these, this wild olive tree that was being grafted in. He couldn't talk to them and he couldn't write letters to them that were predicated, all right, upon the strict adherence of the first covenant. He had to approach things as they were scattered, just like me and you. We can't apply the hardcore law and the judgment of the law in every situation we're in. The best we can do is watch what we eat, okay? Change our mind, okay? Stop doing particular behaviors, take better care of our temple, separate from this world, all right? And live our lives to the best of our ability, but through faith in Yahawashi. Of course, you're going to use the laws, keep the holy day. We do that. But see, they are making it to seem as though we're preaching against the law. We hate the temple, right? And the people we're bringing in, all right, the Lord's going to kill them because they ain't got their fringes on everywhere. This is the stance that these individuals are bringing about. All right. And I'm just doing this video before we get into these points to let you know that which is then is now. And eventually they brought Paul to trial. Okay. Read these stories so you can understand what you're looking at today. The Lord is doing something here. But if you're just all in your feeling, oh my God, another argument. You don't really understand that the Lord is giving you the ability to live in the story of the church. Okay? This is what they said about Paul. Let's see here. Hey, Paul was even getting, on the conscious community. Acts 19 and 26, that you had the conscious community back then. Into all of those Egyptian idols and gods and, the same thing. Acts 19 and 26. But as you have seen and heard, this man Paul has persuaded many people that handmade gods aren't really gods at all. And he's done this not only here in Ephesus, but throughout the entire province. He was messing up the conscious community money back then. Of course, I'm not just talking about the loss of public respect of our business. I'm also concerned that the temple of the great goddess Artemis will lose its influence. All right, the black woman is God. This magnificent goddess worshipped throughout the province of Asia and all around the world will be robbed of her great prestige. And at this, their anger boiled and they began shouting, "Great is Artemis of the Ephesians, the queen of heaven, Diana." You see, the black woman is God. See, we go around and you see us get on these camps. You see us get on the conscious community. You see us get on all of these things. This is why they hate us. We're messing up their money. We're messing up their business. Acts 24 and 5. We have found this man a troublemaker who was constantly stirring up riot among all the Jews over the world. When we do these videos, they're looking at us as troublemakers. Not too many people is checking the Sakari like that. You'll have people do a few videos against them. All right. But when you look at, IUIC ain't gonna say nothing. ISUPK ain't gonna say nothing. Priest Danyala and them ain't gonna really say nothing. Okay. Shakya and them said something recently. He got a church. Deacon Shakya, who used to be with IUIC. I seen him do a video defending the Apostle Paul. You're not gonna see Watchmen for Israel doing no video saying that Al-Azhar and them are going off like that. Okay. Look at all of the different camps. All right. The camps who are really stirring things up is the great millstone and those who come under that banner. All right. Even if they're not named great millstone. All right. Even if they don't give double honors, they may be mad, but ultimately they still teach the right doctrine for the most part. It's those who are really stirring things up. And the wicked Jews, they were mad, man. Furthermore, he's trying to desecrate the temple when we arrested him. See, this is how they look at us. Okay? Acts 21 and 21. But the Jewish believers here in Jerusalem have been told that you are teaching all the Jews who live among the Gentiles to turn their backs on the law of Moses. They've heard that you teach them not to circumcise their children or to follow other Jewish customs. You see? Now, Paul didn't say don't do it as far as circumcision. He just said basically if you're not circumcised, that don't mean you can't be saved, which that ran a lot of the Jews, even some of the Jews who believe hot. Here we're reading in Acts 21, this was believing Jews, okay, but who believed on Yahawashi. He's talking to James here. And even James is like, look, man, the Jews go give us hell, man. You got to do something to let them see that you do believe in the law. So this was a very, very tense environment. Okay. Acts 6 and 13, lying witnesses said, this man is always speaking against the holy temple and against the law. All right. We have heard him say that Yahawashi of Nazareth will destroy the temple. So again, listen to the arguments that these guys are bringing when you see their mindset towards the ministry of grace, when you see their mindset towards what we're saying and these back and forths about the law and all of these various different things. I'm the chief priest. You got to listen to me. Paul went through all of that. Right? There was a point where one of the high priests told somebody to slap Paul, and Paul cursed him out like, motherfucker, who the hell is you, nigga? You go get you. But they had to remind, hey, that's a high priest. And Paul was like, oh damn, let me chill. But again, it's those same spirits back today, right, that are pissed off at the position that the Church of Yahawashi, which I believe this is the Tabernacle of David. All right, our apostles and elders have continued on the tradition. But what you're seeing is these back and forths, all right, that are leading to these videos being made. But the reason I wanted to do this video, which, there's more we can go into, but the reason I wanted to do this video at the end of the day, all right, is to, as we go into these arguments that, the Sakari are bringing, tap into the understanding, of what Paul's position was. Okay, again, to the Jews. Okay. See if I can pull that up again. And again, they're twisting Paul's writings to mean something that he doesn't mean, because really they don't have the spirit. Let's read this in the NLT. When I was with the Jews, I lived like the Jew to bring the Jews to Hamashiach. When I was with those who follow the Jewish law, I too lived under that law, even though I am not subject to the law and to the traditions. They were still offering up sacrifices. All right. I did this so I could bring, all right, to Hamashiach those who were under the law. All right. Because you had people who were hardcore about that mindset, those traditions. To the Jews, I became a Jew to win the Jews. Okay. And then he goes into, to them that are without the law, when I am with the Gentiles who do not follow the Jewish laws, I too live apart from that law so I can bring them to Hamashiach. You might see them do particular things and not follow particular traditions. All right. You don't force particular things down their throat. All right. Knowing that they believe on Yahawah Shai, but they come from a different background as the Jews. Okay. But I do not ignore the law of God. I obey the law of Christ, which is what? Grace. All right. Which this is what these guys have a hard time understanding. Okay. So, and I do this for the gospel's sake, that I might be partaker there with you. Okay. And it's not that he was with the Gentiles partaking in wicked sacrifices, doing evil. All right. But there's a different way that he had to approach them, that he had to address them, different issues that they came with. He had to approach it with balance. You know, like he said, he gave the advice that every man have one wife. That's great advice. But the law, technically, you can have more than one woman. But when you do that, you start to have trouble in the flesh. And boy, oh boy, don't we know? So that he gave good advice in some of his writings. He had to speak in the spirit. He had to come from a perspective of grace. Okay. And, to a lot of people, they're teaching that Paul is against the law and this and that. No. Okay. So and, we'll get into the food offered to idols next, and then we'll address a few other things. But we're going to keep prophesying. We're going to keep teaching. I just wanted to do that lesson. Hopefully I'll edify it on to the next. Shalom.